And that's how the theme song goes. Welcome back to the Constitutionals podcast. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscounty.com. Like I said, it's a website. Go there. Hey, listen, see this. Guess what? This is very strange. I had an idea today. When I had a terrible day at one of my jobs. I was coming back, and I thought, I have to record the Constitutionals tonight, as I usually do, as I've been doing very late on the days that it comes out on Tuesdays. And it turns out that I have two cameras. It doesn't turn out I have two cameras. I've owned these two cameras for a very long time. One of them is used just had a stroke. One of them is used to shoot News Time, which is the show that goes on youtube.com/cpluscomedy. And the other is used to shoot nothing because it used to be my only camera source. But, so, given, I've had these cameras for a very long time. Now, cut to June 19th, 2018. Chad has an idea. Why isn't he just make this a video podcast? And here we are. If you're watching this on youtube.com/cpluscomedy, this is the 62nd episode of the Constitutionals podcast. Now, let me tell you what the Constitutionals podcast is, because I guarantee you there's at least two people here who subscribe to youtube.com/cpluscomedy and enjoy it. And for some reason are still subscribed. If you don't know what the Constitutionals are, I've been pimping them in the last, I guess, like 60 or some odd episodes of, obviously the last 60 episodes of the News Time show that I do, News Time. And if you don't watch that, then you're not a real friend of mine. Anyway, so this is the Constitutionals. It's a podcast. It used to be, it basically, it evolved into an audio diary. It used to be a show that was just about, I don't know. It was supposed to be about me. It's called the Constitutionals because I state something. Every episode I'm supposed to state something, and it's supposed to work like that. But I don't. I haven't done that in a very long time. So if you're seeing this for the first time, welcome. And if you are seeing this, this is the studio where I shoot News Time. Don't get used to it because it is the last time you will ever see the studio because I am moving. I don't know where. That is not a joke. I really don't. I have no idea where, but it'll be changed by the time you watch. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot. I am supposed to be also recording the screen. My screen. There we go. It's recording right now. So right now you can see whatever's on my screen as well. Hopefully I cut to it. Obviously I was watching something on my Xbox in the background. I said, let me turn on the TV. I started doing that and I thought, no, that is impolite. People are going to be watching the TV in the background when they really should be watching me. And now you have two sources. I have that camera right there. And then there's a camera right there. That's amazing. And then I'm recording my screen as well. So let's get right into it. Let's hop into the News Time. What is this? Constitutionals. Oh my God. Same Chad time, same Chad place. Let's hop right into it because there are so many things I want to talk about. And this is such crap. Oh my gosh. I forgot about the top thing. Okay, so a sad thing happened. Not sad. A bad thing happened. I just want to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and bring it up. There's no way to segue into it. So this past weekend, Chloe Dykstra is a presenter / actress. She put up something on Medium where she was talking about her ex-boyfriend, who was a famous host / comedian man / nerd entrepreneur. And if you know who Chloe is, then you know she dated Chris Hardwick, and it was a very sad thing where she said that he sexually abused her. And it's a very tough read. So, but I do suggest that you read it. Add Chris to the pantheon of white men who don't know what boundaries are. But it's a sad thing, and I only mention it because Chris is. I hate when people. I hate when when somebody gets tagged as an abuser, and then people come out and say, "Oh, well, I always hated that person. I always hated that person." Well, I mean, it's okay to like somebody for their work prior to knowing what they did. And I'd never heard anything about Chris. He's this affable guy. Obviously, he's not everybody's cup of tea, but so seeing how he how this came out, and it was just sad. For Chloe, I'm sad for Chloe. I'm not sad for Chris. Chris is gonna be fine. He's a rich white man. So yeah, there we go. And I wrote that down. Oh, but the reason I wrote this down and I'm talking about it is that I really mimicked the way the C Plus Comedy was born, obviously out of wanting to do something on the internet and do it on my own. With two other guys, but then they dropped off, and since I paid for everything, I kept it and I continued doing it. But I was really emulating, a couple of companies. I was emulating when I watched them. I was emulating Rooster Teeth. When I was a huge fan of Nerdist, I was emulating Chris and whatever he was doing. But then he left this past year to do some because Lionsgate bought out the company, and he just stayed on the board member and all that stuff. But now it's just so now I can admit that I did look up to him. Obviously I don't anymore, but it just sucks for Chloe that she was put into that position. So yeah, I'm gonna move on to something that's a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? Not sad. Okay. I can't even transition from that. It's just it just sucks. It just sucks. Okay, so right now, let's talk about the Desus and Mero. They're moving from Viceland over to Showtime. They're gonna have a weekly show on Showtime. This is a great jump for them. They were one of the original shows on Viceland. Now Viceland has pretty much nothing. I mean, and it's kind of their fault. So, oh, look at me. I just shook the camera. It was amazing. I can't adjust myself anymore. I've gotten used to adjusting myself as I talk, as I speak, and now I can't do that. Here's the marker I play with every single time. Every time. It's on the other camera if you want to. Chad, I swear to God, if you don't edit this, I point, you edit. I hope you did. I'm talking to myself for the future for an hour from now. So yeah, they were one of the first shows on Viceland. Then I believe all the shows were canceled. Like, not all the shows, but most of the shows were canceled. I don't know about, I think Gaycation with Ellen Page, is that her name? Ellen Page and what is it? Flophouse. That's the one I really liked. It was a stand-up comedy show and people's homes, but the homes are always these grungy, disgusting places, and it was such a great thing to watch. But God, it was so great to see those young comedians perform, and sometimes comedians that but that show was canceled, I believe. But now, so late last week, it was announced that maybe Desus and Mero would be doing their own show, and on, I mean, obviously they already have their own show, but their own show on Showtime, and they already have a good show. It's as good as it's gonna be. On Viceland, and that's the problem. It's as good as it's gonna be. They can get all of the best booked talents. Let's see who they got, who they booked, because I know there's one with Hannibal that I just put in my watch later notes. But let's see. Let's type in Desus and Mero. Okay. They had a fight with DJ Envy from the Breakfast Club. I'm gonna go ahead and mute this because I know the video is gonna play as soon as I click on it. But yeah, I mean they have, look at this. They have Hannibal. They got Ray Liotta. They make fun of people. Let's see. They got Tay Diggs. They make fun of people continuously. Keep going. They had Tracy Ellis Ross, Director X. They get all of these amazing guests, but then they can only do so much. They release the longer interviews that are cut down from the 22-minute episodes. They release the longer interviews on YouTube. I mean, it's great, but they can only do so much. So it was announced that Desus and Mero were going to end their partnership with Viceland and start something new with Showtime, which is great because Showtime does not have a late night series, and obviously they want to tap into that market. Netflix has one. Netflix has two because Chelsea's canceled. Netflix has one. HBO has one. Obviously, that really does well. TBS has two, NBC has two, CBS has two, ABC has one. So they are True TV, because the Guy Branum's game show, the talk show the game show. Even Adult Swim had the Eric Andre show. Even Comedy Central has the Daily Show, and they're canceling the Opposition. Thank God, because the world doesn't need another right-wing nutcase character on TV. I did the air quotes. Boy, I hope this video looks good. I'm trying to pay attention to both cameras, but eventually that camera is going to turn off because DSLRs do it after a certain amount of time. So at 17 minutes, that camera is going to shut right off. So here's the story from Variety. Variety confirmed that the final episode of the late night show is set to air June 28th. That's also the same day, 2 days after my birthday. Happy birthday to me. That's also is there an episode of the episode of the Constitutionals for that week's gonna come out on my birthday. Anyway, and I'll probably record on my birthday because I got nothing to do. Same as every year. I work, I come home, I go to sleep. I wake up, go to the gym, work, come home, go to sleep. And where will my home be? I don't know. Who knows? But that's the same day the last episode of Jordan Klepper's The Opposition will be. So that and they're actually doing a storyline with him, even though it's a news show, a daily news show. But they're doing a storyline with him where he's spiraling out of control. And I read about it, and I think it's a very funny way for him to go. I can't wait for that show to end. I really can't wait. So. Desus Nice and Kid Mero. The series has been a rare generator of buzz for the cabler, which is very strange because Viceland used to be the History Channel 2, and then I guess A&E Networks and Vice Media teamed up for that. But now Vice is the only show is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia reruns and old movies that hipsters love. I mean, regular people love too, but it's hipsters like Kubrick films, like, oh, I'm a hipster. So let's see. And then we have an update, June 18th, 10 a.m. They officially scored the show. It's going to launch in 2019, so they're gone for the rest of the year. But it's going to be a weekly show. It's going to be produced by Showtime in New York, and Victor Lopez joins Desus and Mero to produce it. So it's going to be Showtime's first late night show, and I can't wait. It's going to be fine. I'm going to watch it. I mean, just like last week tonight, I got tired of that show very quickly, but it's whatever. Moving on. Lucifer is going to Netflix, and I'm very excited because that is one of the shows. That show did not deserve to get canceled. The screen is still recording, which the reason I just paused there, I was looking, I was trying to see if the screen was recording. Everything's recording. This is so nice. This is so great. Lucifer is going up. Oh my gosh, wow. Is going to Netflix. And I just saw an article for The Wrap that said Lucifer showrunners say they are breaking their original idea for season 4.5 after Netflix save. Wow, that's crazy. So Lucifer is a show, it's a DC Comics show that has nothing to do with the Arrowverse and nothing to do with the rest of the... Human Target was a DC show. There's a show called Human Target. I'm going to go look it up. Human Target. There's a show called Human Target that was a Fox show, and it ran for 2 seasons. That was a DC Comics character. Yeah, there it is. Human Target, TV series. And the Human Target's a character in the Arrowverse, and I did not put 2 and 2 together until I remembered it. It ran for 2 years, 2010, 2011. Starred Mark Valley as Christopher Chance, he's an assassin. He can basically take the face. He's an impersonator. He's an exceptional athlete. He's a skilled detective, marksman, martial artist, whatever. I want to watch that show. I really wish I watched it when it was on, because if I knew it was a DC comic show, like Constantine, I didn't know it was a DC comic show until I watched the pilot. But now Lucifer is about the devil. He comes to Earth. He's in LA, and he's solving crimes with this detective that he's fallen in love with, that God may or may not have put there. And it's true. It's good. It's a fine show. It's a fine show. It's a procedural show. But now that they're going to Netflix, it's going to be strange because they're going to have about 10 episodes, according to co-showrunners Joe Henderson and Ildi Modrovich, and so, I mean, they usually do 22 when they're on broadcast, but since Fox canceled them for crap shows, but now, but they're going to stick to the 40 minute mark, the 43 minute mark. So, usually we don't know if how those 2 bonus episodes that aired on Fox this past summer are going to tie in. Those episodes didn't at the season 3 finale of the main show, the real show, the main show of the show on Fox. Lucifer, he lost his devil face, and he's been trying for the past 3 years to show the detective Chloe, his partner, that he is in fact really the devil. He tells everybody he's the devil, and some people know it, some people don't. And he's been trying to tell Chloe for so long, and then his face finally came back, and he didn't show her on purpose. It came out by accident. And then those 2 episodes, apparently I haven't watched them yet, that are on Hulu right now, are just don't deal with him showing his face to being a devil. So those are supposed to be in season 4. So I can't wait for that to premiere. It's probably going to be 2018. I doubt it'll be this year, if anything, because they started so. I mean, well, it's not like they started late. It's just, I guess. Well, because Lethal Weapon is starting to shoot within the next couple weeks too. So who knows? I don't know. Maybe they'll do 10 and 10. I don't know. They should. If I were them, I would stay on the regular track of producing so many episodes for the season. You know, they don't have to do 22, but they can do 18 or 15, and then, you know, tackle half and half. They can still say it, but they're not going to be at Comic-Con, so that's going to be very strange to not see a comic book show there. Moving on. Beyonce and Jay Z. They dropped an album. Very crazy. Let me tell you how I experienced this album. I came home from a job. Just had a date canceled. It's too much. That is too much information. For my current betrothed, I had a date canceled. Does betrothed mean to be wed? Because I've been using that wrong. I learned it on How to Train Your Dragon. Boy, oh boy, I gotta watch that trailer again. I gotta pay attention to this camera more. This camera is about to turn off. Okay. Everything is Love is what it's called. Got an email from Variety on C+ Comedy's email. Email me. And it was, it said, Beyonce and Jay Z are releasing an album together. I said, oh, great. I said, I'm happy. This is great. Get another email. It says, out now. I go, what? I see this. I go, oh my gosh. I hurry through I'm jumping up. I'm jumping naked. Jumping naked. If you could just imagine me naked and jumping. I'm naked. Oh, this is the dumbest thing. I can just see myself. I think I should just hold the mic in front of me. It'll sound better that way. So anyway, I'm jumping up and down. I'm naked. I'm jumping up and down. And then I rush through the shower. I get through the shower. I rush through it. And I come back to the studio, and I start looking up how do I get it? It's probably on Tidal. Is what I figure out. It's probably on Tidal. It's on Tidal. I was correct. And somebody on r/hiphopheads had the information to a URL to get 6 free months. It was already the 6 free months were illegal. They released it for the On the Run tour, and now I have 6 free months of Tidal. That's long story short. I have 6 free months of Tidal. So there's that. If you want to listen to Tidal, I got the hookup, and I put it on my Instagram story, and I listened to it immediately. I didn't do anything for the 38 minutes it played. I only meant to listen to one song. I wonder if that camera's still recording. I only meant to listen to one song. Instead of listening to the whole thing. 38 minutes long. It's very strange because the last 3 albums that Kanye produced, which are the Kid Cudi one, the Nas one, and his, and then the next one he's doing is for a female rapper or R&B singer. I'm not entirely sure who she is. But they're all 7 songs long. They're all about 23 minutes long, 25 minutes long. So it's very strange that Everything Is Love comes out and it is 38 minutes and 15 seconds. 9 songs long though. And it's labeled, and on Google Play Music. It was uploaded Monday, so now I have 6 free months of Tidal for no reason. It was uploaded to every other service: Apple, Spotify, Google. I assume Amazon, but no one has that. Who has Amazon Prime Music? Who's using that? Who says I'm gonna pay $8 a month for that? Because I think it's $8. Because I know, and they have less songs than everybody else. So who is opting into that? Even their free service is so limited. So why would you want to join? Even Spotify's free service is fantastic because it gives you access to everything, but you have to deal with commercials. So why would I not pay for Amazon Music when I could not pay for Spotify? You get what I'm saying? Okay, so anyway, so it's short. is what I'm saying. And that I'd appreciate it if it was a little bit longer. But that being said, there were Lil Yachty and a bunch of other rappers came out this year with 20 song records. Chris Brown, I don't like Chris Brown for a lot of reasons. But his album was 40 songs long. Anyway, Everything Is Love. Let's get back to the computer. Some really great. Oh, I gotta blur that out because I don't like having curse words on my podcast. This is a clean podcast, by the way. No one's watching. I'm just so glad I figured this out. But yeah, 9 songs long, great songs. Track 2 is great, is probably my favorite. Track 8 is wonderful. Track 9's a great closer. I'm not gonna play any music because I don't want to get sued. 713 and Nice, those are also they're all really good songs, and I'm very surprised that it came out. Now, I have read that Nas released an album to eclipse Jay Z in the past, and now Jay Z, people are theorizing that Jay Z did this to mess with Nas, whose album, Kanye produced album, came out this past Friday, and it's good. I like it. You know, it's also a good album, the Black Thought album that came out. I can't remember what it's called. Let's look it up. Really good at typing with one hand. Streams of Thought Volume 1. It's a good album. It's 5 songs long. Don't play it. 5 songs long. You got really good features on there. And Black Thought can really rap. And I really like the Roots. I like the Roots a lot. I should listen to more of the Roots. I only have 2 of their albums, I believe. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, but then they put out a video, the Carters, they call themselves the Carters. They put out a video for track 2. It's great. I've seen it too many times. Let's say that. When my makeup date was on Sunday, we watched the video, the makeup date. That sounds like not a good idea, the makeup date. I was going to say something. I don't think it makes sense. Anyway, the Carters. So check it out. It's good. So what is this episode about? Oh, I know what I was supposed to do. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. Here's the idea for this episode. Usually I run through a whole bunch of stories and then I get to what I want, the main thing I want to do. So I subscribe to a lot of podcasts. I'm going to say, oh boy, I don't even have my phone on me. Yeah, my phone's over there. Jesus. I think it's about 107 right now. 107 podcasts. And if you look at my screen, which I should have edited it up there, then you'll see that it is about 107. So I got this idea last week when I was talking. In the middle of me talking, I wrote this down. In the middle of me talking about a purge, I started writing down the idea for a podcast purge. So I'm going to do a podcast purge live on air right now. One by one, we're going to go through all these podcasts. So Chad, Jimmy back over to the screen. Jimmy back over to it. All right, so look at all these podcasts. I got so many. So let's start with this. 2 Dope Queens. I can't do that because I love those 2 women. Jess and Phoebe are wonderful. Phoebe responded to an Instagram story I mentioned I had about her. It was great. We had a 1 message conversation. 2 messages for her, 1 for me. So I let that one in. Okay. The next one is 372 pages. We'll never get back. I literally just started this podcast today. It's about the book, Ernest Cline's book, Ready Player One. And it is, if you know me, I hate that book. I think that, hey, the camera shut off. I just heard it click. Good job, DSLR. So we're stuck with 1 camera now. But I do not hate things. All right, I hate that book. That book sucks. So Ready Player One, these guys, what are their names? Connor Lastoka and Michael J. Nelson. They read through the book. It's like a book club for nerds. And they have an understanding of why they should like the book. They tell you things about themselves about why they should like the book, and then they just break down why the book's not good. I got to that from I found that podcast via Talking Simpsons, which is a fantastic podcast. I love The Simpsons. I watch that show every single day. I guarantee I will watch it while I'm editing this video and the audio to this stupid show. and we'll get to that later. All songs considered. No, that's how I find out my music. Bob Boylan and Rob Hilton are great hosts. I really love them. So I'm this. You know what? I have a prediction. This is going to end with me not unsubscribing from a majority of these podcasts. I would be surprised if there's even one. And I'm 25 minutes in, so I have about 5 minutes to do this. This is a half-hour podcast, by the way. So Andy Daly Podcast Pilot Project. I always mess it up. Andy messes it up. It's great. It's a wonderful show about following Andy. Well, these people that send in their podcasts to Andy Daly and Matt Gorley. The people are really Andy Daly and Matt Gorley, and that's them. It's just them. They're playing characters, and it's they sift through these podcast pilots, and they're pilots, and they're different characters. Andy hosts, like, he's L. Ron Hubbard, or he's August Lent, or he's Don DeMello and Dalton Wilcox, the cowboy laureate of the poet laureate of the rest. It's very funny. That's what it is. And they just get other famous comedians to do characters, and they do a podcast, and that's it. Armchair Expert. I just listened to my first episode today with Dak Shepard. I like it. It's whenever. So there are shows that have just defined a genre of podcasting. So we have WTF with Mark Maron. He started this interviewing podcast stuff. Never Not Funny was the first podcast. Yes, I know that. But Mark Maron, but they're like a radio show on the podcast. Mark Maron's like a guy who happens to have microphones, and he happens to know famous people, and he talks. So that's what Armchair Expert is. That's where it falls into. That's the category that falls into. And but he has, the reason I subscribed is because he gets people that I have not seen on podcasts before. Caitlin Olsen, Talib Kweli, let's see. Oh, we got Mark Maron. I've never seen him before. Bob Odenkirk, who's rarely on, even if he's on Comedy Bang Bang, he's rarely on that. Seth Green, I haven't seen him in a minute. Anna Faris, whose podcast I'm qualified. I did unsubscribe for. I'm so sorry, Anna. Although we're not friends, so it didn't really matter. Adam Scott, who's on the podcast right now, is You Talking REM to Me. He's You Talking U2 to Me is where I know him from. I mean, I know him from other things too. Jimmy Kimmel. So he's got a lot of people that I think are cool. Ask Me Another. This is Ophira Eisenberg hosts this show with Jonathan Colton. He's a house musician. They have famous people. They play nerdy games and with contestants, with listeners, and it's fun. The Teacher's Lounge podcast, which is a podcast that is probably the funniest one out right now. It's a premium podcast. Subscribe via Stitcher Premium. It's probably going to end soon because one of the guys is moving away to shoot a Comedy Central show. But it is a show of this improv group, Big Grande. They play 4 teachers who are just the worst, who get themselves in the worst situations. Like, they end up hanging out with O.J. Simpson. They end up killing a child. It's great. It's an improv podcast, all improv, and they get their funny improv friends to join in. Scott Ackerman, Ego Nuodum, Carl Tart, Mary Holland, Echo Kellum. So many funny people. I love it so much. Go check it out. I will never unsubscribe to that. Bullseye with Jesse Thorne, NPR podcast, hosted by Jesse Thorne, where he talks to famous people. Split into 2 parts. Like, this week's episode is Alia Shawkat and Mackenzie Crook. It's fine. I like it. I'm just going to move on. There are 3 different Comedy Bang Bangs I've subscribed to. One is the ad-free archives from Stitcher Premium. One is the regular archive, the regular one that just the regular feed that gets updated daily or weekly. And then there's a Comedy Bang Bang special edition that is just the live episodes that are done live, and they're uploaded to Stitcher Premium. Stitcher Premium is a service. I should have explained this. Stitcher Premium is a service in which Earwolf and some other podcasts upload premium episodes of their podcasts and ad-free archives. Listeners get to enjoy for $5 a month. There you go. Okay, moving on. I just had to check the recording. Crazy Genius. That was one of the things I added within the last 2 weeks. It's a here's how it's described: the big questions and provocative conclusions about technology and culture. A new podcast from The Atlantic with Derek Thompson. So he just asks questions, I guess. Like the last episode was who killed local news, and then they do an in-depth story about it. It's really fascinating. And it's only half an hour. It's less than half an hour long. So, and I listen to podcasts at times 1.5 speed. So there we go. Dead Pilot Society. This is probably going to be the one that I subscribe from. But I do. Ben Blacker and Andrew Reich are really funny guys, really great guys, really smart guys too. And they curate a live show where creators of TV shows come and they put on a live performance of their dead pilot scripts. I think it's fine. The performances are usually good, but it's just by people you don't really know. And they interview the creators too. Do you know who Jason Segel is? Is Brendan Walsh, Nick Thune, calling around the United States asking people if they know who Jason Segel is. It sounds dumb. It is dumb, but it's the greatest podcast. So I will not leave that one. Dr. Game Show. I know I didn't unsubscribe from Dead Pilot Society, but I might do it at some point. That's probably going to be... You know what? I'll do it right now. Because they update it so sporadically. But there are so many people that... Like Adam... You know what? I'm just going to do it. Unsubscribe. Yes, unsubscribe. Okay, I did it. Oh God. It felt so good. Love looking in that camera and seeing myself. Dr. Game Show. It's hosted by Joe Firestone and Manolo Moreno. They play crowdsourced games from the public. People like you. Thank you. It's fine. I like it. Dumb People. It's very laid back and chill. Dumb People Town, definitely one of my favorites. The Sklar brothers, who I interviewed, guys, who I did get a second chance to interview, but I've been in a funky mood and I could not get myself to do it. Daniel Van Kirk and a guest, and they go over stupid people stories from the past year or so, or whenever. I don't know. I was checking the battery on the camera, so let's keep going. NPR, Fresh Air. If you don't know this, then get out of my face. It is Terry Gross talking to famous people and doing news stories. Future Bachelor, that is a podcast, a weekly podcast for the fans of The Bachelor and related shows. It's two hosts. They talk about pop culture stuff and The Bachelor. Game Scoop. It's a week's worth of gaming news. Hosted by Damon Hatfield. Sometimes Justin Davis is there as well. It's IGN's podcast. That's a good all-around news podcast for games. I really like it. It's definitely one of my favorite. Giant Bombcast. Let me say this right now. If you like hearing a bunch of privileged white men, a bunch of middle-aged privileged white men talk about video games and complain about video games. Let me start over. If you like a bunch of privileged white men, middle-aged white men. Let me start. If you like a bunch of privileged middle-aged white men complaining about video games, that's what this podcast is. Hannibal Buress, handsome, but it's long and they sometimes have good stuff on it. Handsome Rambler by Hannibal Buress. It's Hannibal Buress's podcast where he talks to his famous friends, and he has a theremin and they do on-the-fly music. It is crazy. Tony Trim is there. High and Mighty, it's with John Gabris. It's a show where John Gabris sits down with one person and they talk about something that person is really into. So they did an episode with Sean Clements and Ben Rogers called about Bosch. They did an episode about day jobs with Jake Ray Abel and Amanda Salvatore. Running with Joe Wangert. I subscribe to 3 versions of Hollywood Handbook. It's too many. Again, same thing with Comedy Bang Bang. It's one's ad-free archive, so I can listen to old episodes. Also, I subscribe to the ad-free archives because they only put the last 6 months on the regular feed. I just hiccuped. There you go. And Hollywood Handbook Pro version, which is the pro version, which is the same show. Hollywood Handbook is 2 guys, Sean Clements and Hayes Davenport, and they take a VIP backstage pass into Tinseltown politics, answer questions, and unsuccessful listeners. Listen, it's a really dense podcast. If you're going to get into it, then it's good luck to you, because it took me a year. Hollywood Masterclass is a Stitcher premium show from Sean Clemens, who he sits down with some other guy and they talk about stuff. They talk about, it's a masterclass in Hollywood. It's just so the Hollywood Handbook and Hollywood Masterclass are both very farcical. I would not take anything they say to truth, but it's very funny. It's again very dense. How did this get made? Famous people, Paul Scheer, June Diane Raphael, and Jason Mantzoukas sit down with a guest or two, and they talk about a really bad movie, and ask the question how to get made. How to Be a Person with Mike Drucker and Jess Dweck. This is probably a show I would unsubscribe to in the next few weeks or so. It's same thing as High and Mighty. These two, Mike Drucker is a writer who I followed since he was on IGN, and then Jess Dweck is a writer as well. She's really talented. They're both really talented. I'm sorry, I should not single out her, but that's reverse sexism for you guys. So there you go. How to Be a Person. Again, they just talked to somebody about how to do one thing, like High and Mighty. I Was There Too from Matt Gorley. He talks to famous people and their sometimes small stints in movies. So like Yardley Smith talking about The Simpsons and City Slickers. Maurice LaMarche, the famous voice actor for all his stuff. We're going to skip over that podcast. That is after I Was There Too. And before If I Were You. Because of extenuating circumstances. Based around the host. Okay, so If I Were You is from Jake Hurwitz and Amir Blumenfeld. You might know them from College Humor. Great guys, really funny. They just give advice to teenagers. It's a teenager show. It's a teenage-driven show because I'm pretty sure because every question is, I like this girl. What can I do? Or I did something embarrassing in front of this girl. What do I do? Yeah, something like that. Improv for Humans. Matt Besser and some improvisers do audio improv. It's very funny. Sometimes Matt Besser gets on his soapbox. You gotta deal with that. Inside of You, new recruit. Inside of You, Michael Rosenbaum, who is the voice of the Flash on the Justice League TV show from 2003 to 2005. Wonderful show. Are those the right years, or is it 2002? I don't know. Who knows? It's a fine show. Again, he sits down with famous people to talk to him. Again, this is a show I only subscribe because I like Michael Rosenbaum, but second, he's gotten people that I've never heard on podcasts. Colin Hanks, until I heard Colin Hanks on Never Not Funny last week, but Colin Hanks, Kristen Bell, people, Bobby Lee. I mean, Bobby Lee was on You Made It Weird last year, but Danielle Panabaker, oh, I love her. She is so great. This is amazing. Eli Roth, Tom Welling. That was the first episode I listened to last week. Tom Welling of Smallville. They both starred on Smallville. It's Been a Minute with Sam Sanders. This show is updated weekly. There's a Tuesday episode where Sam Sanders is very likable. He's a very good guy. He talks to famous people like Niecy Nash, or he talks to people in the news. Like he did an episode on June 5th called Free Speech versus Hate Speech. And then on Fridays, he has a weekly wrap up where he sits down with two other people from the news world, like New York Times, NPR, Washington Journal, Washington Post. I don't know why I said Washington Journal. And they're good. It's good. It's a good show. I really suggest you. And there's always happy stories. They talk about sad stories. They dive right into it. But then they talk about happy stories. So check it out. James Bonding, Matt Gurley and Matt Myra. It's a show. Did I say Gurley? Matt Gurley and Matt Myra. It's a show that they talk about every James Bond movie and every James Bond property ever. And listen, it sounds annoying. It is, but they're doing it. This year they're doing it every week for the year. And it used to be really sporadic, but now they do it every week for the year. Judge John Hodgman. I do like John Hodgman. He sits down with Jesse Thorne, and they have a judge like court chamber settings where they talk to two people about an issue, like I don't know if ghosts are real, something like that. It's fine. That one might be one that leaves, but not now. Then there's Larry Wilmore, Black on Air. This is a show I subscribe to because Larry Wilmore was unsurreptitiously, he was kicked off the air of Comedy Central because he wasn't getting enough ratings. Every show that's been on after The Daily Show, after Colbert left, has been canceled. At Midnight, Larry Wilmore show. The opposition. There you go. Should have kept Samantha Bee. They could have had a show with her. But she's on TBS and she's doing a great job. I don't care what anybody says. Late Night Whenever from Michelle Buteau. I tried to interview her once. Her people were not having it. Don't send me. Listen, if you are a publicist, don't send me stuff and then not respond to me. Don't send me stuff saying, "Hey, you want an interview?" and then not respond to me when I say, "Yes, I would love an interview," or "Yes, I would love to preview the show," something like that. "Yes, I'd love to put up a clip of the show." Don't send me stuff and then do that. It's a late night show, late night talk show, but in podcast form. So there you go. Major Nelson Radio. It's from Larry Herb. He's a Xbox guy. He's one of the faces of Xbox. I don't know what he does, but he sits down with his friends and they talk about Xbox stuff. Meet My Friends the Friends with Tom Sharpling. This is a show where Tom Sharpling oh God, what are these shows called? Where people watch TV shows and then they recap. It's a recap show, recap podcast. And he's watching every episode of Friends and it's so satirical. And he's making fun of recap podcasts and he's kind of making fun of Friends, but it's also kind of serious. It's great. And then there's Never Not Funny with Jimmy Pardo. One of the first podcasts in the world, one of the funniest. Like I said, it's like a radio show, but it's poorly produced and it has these 4 jabronis on it and I love it. Go check it out. And they talk to famous people. Colin Hanks, Stephen Tobolowsky, Mark Cherry, Patton Oswalt. A lot of white people, but you'll get used to it. Cristela Alonso, she's on there. Oh boy, just skipped down. Nintendo Power podcast. Nintendo Power is back, but now they're a podcast form. And it's a monthly podcast. It's kind of like how Nintendo Power is a monthly magazine. And it's, again, this is one like Major Nelson Radio is produced by Nintendo, and they're strictly on schedule. They will not, they don't deviate. Nintendo Voice Chat is a show from IGN. It's Nintendo games. It's like GameScoop, but for Nintendo games. There you go. It's good. I like it. Obscure with Michael Ian Black. Michael Ian Black reads a book to you. And I have not listened to the first episode, but I've heard the promos for it on other podcasts. Very strange, but I can't wait to check it out. Off Book. This is probably going to be one that I drop too. It is an improvised musical show from Jessica McKenna and Zach Reno, and they have a special guest, and a guy plays a piano in the background, and they sing a song. They sing songs and tell a story over that piano. It's really good, but I just haven't listened to it in about 3 months. Off Camera, I didn't unsubscribe because I think I want to check it out again. Off Camera with Sam Jones, another newcomer. Sam Jones, I don't know who this guy is. I don't. Talks to famous people, and I checked it out, and it's really cool. It's on YouTube. They put the video on YouTube first, and then you have to wait a couple weeks for the audio to come out. But I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool show. I'm going to listen to the Pete Holmes episode to see if I will stay on. Oh, he's been doing this for a very long time. Oh, there's 100 and something episodes. Oh my gosh. So yeah, the PCast Blast. This is a derelict feed right now. It was a live show that Earwolf did with How Did This Get Made, Comedy Bang Bang, Improv for Humans, Hollywood Handbook, Who Charted, and Playing Games with Jimmy Pardo. So it was just a live show, and it was really great. Beyond Podcast Beyond is it's a PlayStation podcast, and from IGN. Again, it's fine. It's not the best. Podcast Unlocked, IGN, Xbox podcast. Pop Culture Happy Hour, great show from NPR, and they talk these NPR correspondents talk about the new shows or the new movies or the new books or the new music that's out. Usually shows and movies. But then they also talk about their favorite things that they've discovered. So that's great. New York Times podcast. I urge you to listen to this if you like music. Just like All Songs Considered, I urge you to listen to both of these if you like music. Podcast is great. John Caramanica sits down and they talk about the music news of the week. And so like last week, well, I mean, they make up a theme and then they talk about it. Like they talked about Kanye's Ye, or a Drake versus Pusha T. It doesn't have to be about the new music of the week. They can just pick a topic. They had an Avril Lavigne episode. They have 2 Avril Lavigne episodes. Wonderful. Questions for Lennon. John Lennon is a spinoff of Connie Bang Bang. John Lennon, who's Mike Hanford, who's alive. John Lennon's alive, guys. He talks about, he answers your questions. There you go. I got to speed this up. Are You Talking REM to Me? Used to be You Talking U2 to Me. Adam Scott and Scott Aukerman talk about the albums of REM and U2. It's great. It's wonderful. That's how I got into U2. I haven't gotten into REM, so therefore I stopped listening to the podcast. Radio Atlantic is a weekly show. It's a news show from the Atlantic, very dry. If you like the Atlantic like I do, then you'll love this show. Radio Lab. I haven't listened to this in a couple of weeks. But it's a very wonderful show. It's an investigation that centered around one big idea. I'm just reading the description. I'm just trying to rush through this right now. Ram Dass Here and Now. This is probably going to be the one, because I can read Ram Dass's stuff, and there's 100 and something episodes that I'm probably going to drop this one. No offense to Ram Dass, but I will just read your stuff. It's a show that just chronicles Ram Dass's life. Remade in America with Bassem Youssef. This is a new show that I've discovered, and it's also a new show, period. It started in May. Bassem Youssef sits down for 30 minutes to talk to somebody, and they tell a story. They didn't tell a story. They cover a news story. Like this week's episode is Lesbian Without Apology being out and being funny with Cameron Esposito. So we'll talk to her. It's really highly produced. I really enjoy it. So Many White Guys. Phoebe Robinson from Two Dope Queens fame. I'll just unsubscribe from Rob Das. Here we go. Unsubscribing. I've done 2. I've unsubscribed from 2. So Many White Guys. Phoebe Robinson talks to people of color and women. And then that's it. She interviews them. That's it. Sometimes she talks to white guys at the end of the season. Spontaneous Nation with Paul F. Tompkins. Paul F. Tompkins interviews somebody, then he and these improvisers improvise a story based on that story that the person told them. Still Processing, wonderful New York Times podcast that sometimes gets a little bit soapboxy. Jenna Wortham and Wesley Morris talk about things that happen that affect their culture writers. So they talk about things that affect the culture. Strictly Business with Derek Contreras. It's another Strictly Premium podcast. Drew Tarver from Big Grande is a professional skateboarder, Derek Contreras. And he left extreme sports, and now he's trying to start his own business as an entrepreneur, and he's bad at it. It's really funny. Super Ego is from Matt Gorley, Paul F. Tompkins, Mark McConville, Jeremy Carter. They do, I think it's improv. I think it's a sketch show. I would say it's a sketch show. It's an audio sketch show. There you go. And that's it. I haven't listened to enough episodes. It's Super Ego Classic. Same thing, but it's about literature, I guess. Talking Simpsons, one of my favorite new podcasts. Bob Mackey and Henry Gilbert talk about The Simpsons with a special guest, and they go over each episode. And it looks their Patreon is doing well. They're making a lot of money from this, so that's good. I'm really happy for them, seriously, and I'm glad that people are talking about The Simpsons again. Even if Hari Kondabolu is too. Apparently, in that book, The Simpsons Confidential, that just came out with Mike Reese, who wrote it. Who's been with The Simpsons for every season except for 2 seasons, I think, where he didn't write for 2 seasons. He really shot down the Hari Kondabolu's documentary. I was going to say podcast. This has been for 48 minutes. I need to hurry this up. Talking Simpsons is great. TED Radio Hour. It's TED Talks, but in radio form. You don't know what TED Talks are, you gotta get it. The Atlantic Interview. That's the 3rd Atlantic podcast I've subscribed to in the past couple of weeks. A guy sits down and he talks to one person, and like Bill Gates or I don't know any of those people, but Jake Tapper. He talks to these people. There you go. That's it. It's an interview show. The Best Show is a very long-running radio show that turned into a podcast with Tom Sharpling. There's a 3-hour show every Tuesday night live, and they put it up on Wednesdays. And there's a topic, and Tom Sharpling talks to you, the viewer. You call in, you talk to him. There you go. The big ones, Maria Busici, Amanda Lunn, they ask big questions with their friends. So, like, would I ever sacrifice the lives of few to save the lives of many? Stuff like that. It's really fun podcast. The book review. I have yet to listen to an episode, but I just want to get back into reading a lot. So the New York Times book review is going to help me do that. I assume it's just like the New York Times podcast, but with books. The Breakfast Club, DJ Envy, Charlemagne, and Angela Yee. It's a radio show turned into podcast form. Same thing. The Complete Woman, Amanda Lunn, is a 1950s housewife, and this is her podcast. It's you imagine 1950s housewife. The Constitutionals, subscribe. The Daily, it's a daily news show from the New York Times where they talk about one subject at a time, and it's really in depth, really well produced. I like it. Film Riot podcast from the YouTube channel Film Riot, who I also just discovered because of this podcast. This podcast was suggested to me the day it came out, so I thought, why not check it out? It's the guy, Ryan Connolly, talks to people who work in the film industry. So he talks to editor Evan Schiff, who you've seen his work. He's done, John Wick, I believe. And he talks to Matt Lanterns next week. It's good so far. The Good Place podcast. It's a podcast, but for The Good Place. And where Mark Evan Jackson, who's an actor on the show, talks to people who work on the show as well. It's fine. I enjoy it. The Hooray Show. Hooray Show Sans. It's a scripted, no, not scripted. It's an improv show. That's it. That's all I can really say about that one. The Indicator from Planet Money. Planet Money's podcast. They talk about money. They have an indicator. Indicator is a thing that they can ask. It's a number. It's a number. How much? Like they'll say the GDP is $862, and they'll tell you how that $862 affects you or whoever's in the store. JV Club with Janet Varney. Janet Varney is she interviews people. There you go. She's wonderful. The Old Ones with Mike Birbiglia. He did this as a promotion for his last stand-up tour. I've only listened to 2 episodes, the John Mulaney and the Joe Birbiglia episode, but I'll check out the last 3, then I can unsubscribe. The Pod Have Tomcast, Paul Tompkins' first podcast. I don't know what this is. I should listen to it, then unsubscribe. The Podcast for Laundry with Brett Davis. This guy is he falls in love with, it talks about doing laundry, falls in love with this laundry detergent, and then chaos ensues. And it's crazier than, he goes to jail. It's crazy. It's so crazy. The Reality Show. Hayes and Sean from Hollywood Handbook. This is their first show. They talk about reality television. The first 2 episodes don't really stand the test of time because they're talking about reality shows from 2016, something like that. I don't know. 2013. The TV Campfire, brand new podcast. This is produced by the ATV Television Festival. Brand new podcast to me. They talk. Well, it started this week. They people who run shows, showrunners, directors, editors, writers. They all talk about how they got into the business. It's great. I enjoy it. Writers panel, same thing, but Ben Blacker hosts it. And this is where the ATX. This is a lot of ATX stuff is uploaded. This American Life. If you don't know the show, come on, guys, really. Freedom. Scott Aukerman, Lauren Lapkus, Paul F. Tompkins. It's their podcast. Thrilling Adventure Hour. It's from Ben Acker and Ben Blacker. Acker and Blacker, we'll just call them that. They write scripts. It was a live show, and famous people portrayed the characters in the scripts. Really funny. Throwing Shade. Very funny, very provocative show, just like Still Processing. If Still Processing is about talking about culture for colored people, like how culture affects colored people, then this is talking about how culture affects gay people and women. So everybody's covered. All the bases are covered. Throwing Shade, Deeper Shade of Shade. Again, Aaron Gibson, Brian Safi back. They're great. They're wonderful. Talking one-on-one to one person. Wonderful. I love it. UCB, Sports and Leisure. This is probably going to be one that goes, but I still have 1 episode to check out. I have 2 episodes to check out. Matt Walsh and Scott Armstrong from UCB. They do, I think it's improvised show. Unspooled. It's Paul Scheer, Amy Nicholson. Imagine how did this get made, but for good movies. For the AFI Top 100. Up first, NPR. It's a 10-minute broadcast, news broadcast condensed. It's condensed to 10 minutes. Really good. I like it. Steven Escape's great. Wait, Don't Tell Me. Just like Ask Me Another, except less nerdy. What a cartoon. It's all nerdy. What a cartoon. From the Talking Simpsons guys. Wonderful. I enjoy it. Instead of talking about one cartoon, they talk about a bunch of cartoons, but they do it over the course of episodes. So I'm listening to the home. They have an episode of about home movies, the Adult Swim show, the UPN turned Adult Swim show. Last episode was about Freakazoid. So they watch one episode of that show, and then they'll talk about the series as a whole. It's great. Who Charted? Howard Kramer talks to his famous friends, and they go through music charts and movie charts, and they complain about music being popular. Why Don't You Date Me? From Nicole Byer. She is a very funny comedian. She talks to her friends about why no one will date her, and they read through her Tinder. It's great. Wild Horses, The Perspective, Lauren Lapkus, and the Wild Horses, Mary Holland, Stephanie Allen, I'm forgetting, Aaron Hayes, nope, the last one. Anyway, they talk to famous people, and then they do an improv show. With special guest Lauren Lapkus. This show is actually on hiatus, and I think I should probably unsubscribe from it. But Lauren Lapkus does improv, where she is the special guest on someone else's podcast, and they're all characters. It's great. Womp It Up is a wonderful show from Earwolf with Jessica St. Clair and Lyndon Parham. They play these characters from the Connie Bang Bang lore, and I enjoy it. And it's about a high school girl who's doing her senior podcast project, senior podcast project. The worst idea of all time. These two guys watch a movie once a day, for a year, and they talk about it. WTF Mark Maron. Mark Maron talks to the famous people. Yo, Is This Racist? Tanya Newsom, Andrew T. They talk to guests, and listeners send in questions in regards. I'm tired, guys. Send in questions in regards to if something is racist or not. Like they'll see, like, oh, my white friend likes to wear Asian garb. Is that racist? Then we'll talk about it. And last but not least, You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes. Pete Holmes talks to a famous person, and he institutes his own thoughts onto them. And it's great. I love it so much. I love Pete Holmes. It's great. It's a wonderful show. And that's it. That's all the shows that I am subscribed to. You see, I unsubscribed from 2, so that's good. At least I went from 2. I dropped 2 out of the 105, so there's 103 left. Oh my God. Well, usually, I mean, this is the groundbreaking episode of the Constitution news time of the Constitutional, so it's great that this happened. If you like this show for some reason, why don't you subscribe? You can always follow us on Twitter. Go to YouTube. God. How does this show end? If you like this show for some reason, you can go to cpluscomedy.com where there's things. Follow us on Twitter at cpluscomedy. Follow me on Twitter at @BlackWhite. Like us on Facebook. Go to the YouTube page, youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can see this video and also the premiere show news time. This week's news time is about movie ticketing services. It's a weekly news show. It's great. I love doing it. What the heck was that noise? That noise. Anyway, it's a weekly show about what the heck? Oh, it's tape. It's a weekly show about news. So this week's episode is about mobile ticketing services and how they got their rise and stuff. So check it out. That's great. All right. Anyway, I'm going to hang up now. Bye.